growing up, there was an emphasis for, women to be very like patriarchal, like wives. You didn't go to school necessarily. And even if you did, you were just going to school to meet a husband. And it's just very like the very like 1950s patriarchal world that we were living in, right?
Screw the patriarchy.
Right, and I didn't know any different. I thought it was great.
What kind of cult was this, though?
Las distracciones y narrativas reinan este mundo tecnológico. Todos tienen una opinión de lo que es la verdad y lo que es mentira. ¿Quién controla el mundo? Los aliens son real. ¿Vivimos en un Matrix? Estas preguntas serán debatidas con José y Daniel G, explorando y descubriendo las verdades de nuestro mundo, nuestras creencias y nuestro reality. Welcome to Cultura Truth Project.
Dímelo, mi gente. Welcome back. It's another one, otro episodio. Cultura Truth Project. Jose G, Daniel G, right over there. Dímelo, bro. What's going on?
Well, it's another beautiful week. We've had some crazy end of spring storms in North Texas, but we dodged it.
I saw, dude, what was it, like over 20 or over 50 tornadoes out there, bro?
Bro. So we woke up on Tuesday morning to 80-mile-an-hour winds at 6:15 in the morning. Okay, there are trees down everywhere. There's tornadoes all over the place, all through like North Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas. It's been a freaking week. Definitely, like it's crazy because compared to like living in Florida, for people who don't understand, right? Like there's people who grew up on the East Coast and are used to like the hurricane season where it's like that it's coming. And then like Tornado Alley, bro, during tornado season, it's like you're sleeping and then it wakes you up. Wee woo, find shelter and good night. Like it happens in the middle of the day, in the middle of the night. You don't know when it's gonna happen.
I'd much rather deal with my hurricanes here in Florida. Since I know, and I've dealt with hurricanes my entire life. I have never dealt with an out of a moment tornado where I have to do that. So I guess Texas is definitely not the state for me.
So there's two things I would rather deal with than tornadoes: the hurricanes and the earthquakes in California, and then to tornadoes. Because at least if you get caught in a freaking if it's the one, like the big one, like they always talk about in California, well, Papa Dios me fui. Like it is what it is. Whatever. But like. In the hurricane, it's like, bro, it's like a snow day. It's like, hey, we shut down for the day. As long as it's not a category 5, we're chilling.
Yeah, at least in Florida, bro, it's like if it's category 2, maybe 3, we really don't get worried. It's like if it's 4 or above, we really get worried. But
if it's a 4, we're like, should we evacuate? Like,
yeah.
Hey, but whose house we going to?
Why? Hey, right. La cerveza. Make sure you bring the beer too, right?
Bring the beer.
That's Latin culture for you, bro. So, bro, we got a great show today, man. We got a great show lined up for you guys.
We do.
We have a human design coach. Her name is Jen Allyson. She practices human design, and we're going to dive into what is human design. I discovered human design, Danny, last year, September at a retreat for my business. And I was introduced to it, and I only scratched the surface, and I brought it back over and I brought it to Brenda. I'm like, hey, you need to check this out because I think this might answer a lot of the questions that you may have on yourself. And sure enough, bro, I got her like a human design book. She started diving in, and now she's like understanding herself at a deep level. And the cool thing about it is, and this is for any listeners who are religious, this is not, from what I understand, It's not something that's gonna convert you. If not, it's actually going to make your faith in whatever, religion you are stronger. So
Interesting.
and it's a very interesting concept. There's a lot of stuff mixed into it, and Jen is a great person to go and talk about this, because she not only is a spiritual coach for human design, but she focuses primarily on women. So we have that, that perspective that we can dive into. And she's going to reveal a lot of stuff today about like herself and how she came into be. And I'm just super excited to have her on, bro. But before we get started, before we bring her on, guys, make sure you follow us on all of our socials. Cultura Truth Project on YouTube and on Rumble. Make sure you smash that notification bell so you never miss whenever we drop a brand new video. Also, follow us on Gonzalez Media TV on Instagram and on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast on all major platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and leave us a 5-star review. And if you want to be part of the Supporters Club, join us on Spreaker for $3 a month. You can be part of the Supporters Club, where you get to access exclusive audio you can't get on YouTube and you can't get on Rumble. So make sure you get on Spreaker, supporters only, cheaper than a cup of coffee, cheaper than a bag of Skittles. So I'm ready to go, bro. Let's bring Jen Allyson on. I'm so excited for this conversation, bro. Hi, Jen. Welcome to the
Hey,
show.
guys.
How are you?
Great. So excited to be here.
Welcome. So what is human design? Like, Jose's typing this up, and and I don't beat around the bush, man. Like, what is human design?
He always
What is
loves
this?
to start, he wants to get straight into it. But before we start with the questions, Jen, tell us a little bit about yourself and where can the people find you?
So I'm a spiritual mentor, relationship coach. I work with women for women's empowerment, so they can find their way to be the creative geniuses that they are here to be. And I use human design for that. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Jen Allyson. And I also, for those of you who are human design projectors, or you find you're a projector, I have a projector group called Projector Brilliance there on Facebook.
Awesome. And you also have a Patreon, correct?
Yeah, I have a Patreon. It's still in its soft launch phase. It's a lot of relationship and ascension work. So I don't know if you guys talk about ascension very often, but I do these light code paintings, like you can see there, that help you clear stuck emotions, false beliefs, false programs, and so on, so that you can become lighter, so you can enter enlightenment.
Interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So let's start off. Danny already started with the first question. What is human design?
Great.
Where did it come from, and how long has it been in existence?
There's a guy who started it.
There's always a guy.
You're right. There's always a guy,
patriarchy,
right?
Jesus.
I do have to say though, what Jose said is correct, that it really is not a dogmatic system. It's not something you join or are baptized into. It's a system for understanding how your energy works in your body. So as Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, you need to understand energy. And so human design is essentially a system that helps you understand how your personal energy works within your body, so that you can interact interpersonally with people on a correct level, enter relationships correctly, what professions might be better suited for you, and so on and so forth. It essentially gives you a language for how your energy works within your body, which we don't have a lot of languages for that type of thing. We haven't even acknowledged that we have energy running through our bodies, other than I'm tired, So it was started by this guy named Ra, which is kind of his chosen name after, I don't know what his birth name was. And I'm not 100% sure on the year. I want to say somewhere in the early 70s. So kind of in that when Enlightenment came to California. He's actually from Ibiza. And he essentially downloaded the system from his higher self, and started working at I guess expressing all the information for the system. And then along came one of his here you go, one of his I don't want to say the word followers, because it's not a cult. There's not followers. But one of his the people who was really into the system and a studier of it, began another system, a sister system called the Gene Keys. And the Gene Keys is a study of the 64 energetic frequencies that make up the world that we live in. And so it's more of a foundational system even than human design, even though it came secondary. So those are kind of the roots of the information that we have. And the key thing to remember with human design is it's an experiment. So you don't have to believe anything. You gather the information and you test it against what you know in your life. You experiment with the information to see if it's correct for you. And if it's not, then you leave it behind. It's not for you. And if it is, then you can utilize it to help you.
Now, let me ask you like a follow-up on this human design and use of energy.
Yeah.
I don't personally believe that the idea of energy is anything new. It's been talked about throughout the ancient world in some way or form. Even if you're a Christian, it's believed that energy flows through you. It's called something slightly different. It's called the soul. It's called the spirit or whatnot. But if you think about it, it is an unknown energy that flows in and through us, right? So how has this name, human design, repackaged old ideas?
Well, it's an expansion. So, I mean, we talk about old ideas. We go to the chakra system from, the Vedic beliefs and the Hindu beliefs and so on and so forth. Buddhism, they have the chakra system where your energy comes into your body at 7 different energy centers, right? You're aware of that?
Yes.
So human design uses those 7 energy centers. They have 2 additional energy centers, but they're called the same names. So it's not so much a new language as an add-on to the existing language from some of these more ancient pathways. And Gene Keys and human design both utilize information from the Kabbalah, from the I Ching, and the I Ching is those 64 energy archetypes, and so on and so forth. So there is a lot of ancient astrology. Sorry.
No,
and astrology is used. That's my Frenchie who's really jealous whenever I talk to anyone.
Like good dogs are. Good dogs are always jealous. You should see Nova over here. Every time I'm even on the phone during work, she's like, "Why are you talking to other people that aren't me?"
So, all right. So now when we're looking at human design, from what I've gathered, and because I'm not an expert at this, but I do know a little bit about it, there's different types of categories of people that fit in human design. I've found out there's generators, there's projectors, there's manifestors, and I think there's one more, but I'm probably forgetting. But exactly, can you describe like what each one of those categories represents for a person? And then we'd love to go over the chart that you did for both of us, because you did one for Danny, you did one for me, and maybe you can help us understand what this is all about.
Yeah, I am so
What?
excited.
Hold on.
What? Excited over Danny's chart against free will.
What? So, Jose, what are you doing? What are you doing, man? What are you doing? So that I have a chart here.
You have a chart, bro. You have a chart. We're gonna bring it up later, but let's let Jen talk.
Okay. So there's 5 different types, or 6. I'll tell you when I say them.
Oh,
so
okay.
Manifestor, they're defined by having a undefined sacral, but they have a defined throat, and so they're able to speak with power and with presence, and they speak into their world what they want to create, essentially. And with manifestors, you can't really tell them what to do. You can inform them of circumstances, but you cannot tell them what to do. And they are kind of the old leaders of the world. So human design deals a lot with evolution. And we're evolving from a manifestor-led world to a projector-led world. And so manifestors used to lead the world with their voice. So that's manifestors. They're kind of an interesting type. They have an aura that is repellent in a lot of ways, because they're not here to be inundated with dealing with a lot of people. They're just here to kind of show people pathways forward. And then we move into generators, which is, I think, accounts for like 70% of like humanity, generators and manifesting generators together. And so a generator, a pure generator, has a defined sacral. And Jose, you're a generator. And so when you have this defined sacral, you kind of have this, the sacral is the creationary source of our energy. And so you're connected always to that creationary source of your energy. And so you can follow your kind of your pleasure to the life that you want to live. So your sacral has this automatic yes or no response. It either has an uh-huh or an sound. And so if you live your life kind of on yes and no questions, your sacral can actually guide you to whatever is going to give you the most energy and the most excitement.
It's amazing that you say that, because when I found out about that, my area is like literally my gut, right? So I always ask my gut, like, what do you think about it? Uh-huh or uh-uh. All right, I'm following you. And it's worked.
Yeah, it's a really simple system, the generators, and I'm really jealous because I'm not a generator, and I wish
I must not be one of those, because I'm over
here.
here. I'm like, yo, I need information, homie. I need info. Like, I already
I
know.
know you're
Like,
salivating. You're waiting to get it. I'm gonna.
I'm
bring
over here
enough
like
to me.
I need information. Like I don't. It doesn't matter, right? Like at the end of the day, it's like I need information. I just know I need information before I make a final decision, guys.
Well, I've seen your chart, Danny, so I know exactly what you want.
Oh, okay.
So the manifesting generators, they have a circuit connected directly from their sacral to their throat. And so they're kind of like a power packed person, because they can be a manifester by speaking into their reality, but they also have that deep sacral connection, and it's their sacral straight into the voice. So they're like they move really quickly in the world, and they defy a lot of social convention in a lot of ways, because they don't go from like A to B. They go from like A to G to F to B to, like all over the map. And then at the end, they've created something that nobody's ever seen before. So they're really driven by that energy, and they can move really quickly, manifesting generators. And then we have projectors, and Danny, this is you.
Figured.
And I'm a projector, and projectors are my favorite.
Of course.
Projectors are marked by the fact that they have this open sacral, and our aura is very absorbing, and it is very focused. So when we're connecting, we do best one-on-one. So when we connect with one other person's energy, we can see things about them, we can feel things about them. We're very highly attuned to the system of other people, and we're really designed to be in other people's energy. And it takes us a long time to come home to our own energy, because we can really become so like blinded by the energy of the people who we are engaged with. So.
Now, let me ask you this. Pause you right there. You ever heard of something called a spiritual gifting?
Gift?
Spiritual giftings. Yeah, spiritual gifts, right?
Yeah.
So one of my spiritual gifts is discernment. Sounds like projectors have a lot of discernment in their energy field.
Yes, absolutely. And you have another thing, which we'll get into in a minute, in your profile type that is the most discerning of all the profiles. So absolutely, that's your design to a T.
Okay.
So projectors are here. We're the guides of the new earth. So we are able to see pathways forward. We're able to understand how things work most efficiently. We're masters of systems. So you get us in a system, we understand how it works. We can skip lots of steps, because so many parts of systems are unnecessary. So we see the most efficient pathways forward. We see how other people, when we're invited properly, we can tell them how to skip a bunch of steps. So we make great guides, great coaches, great advisors, great consultants, things like that. And then, come here. Do you need a treat? Sorry. And then there are reflectors. And reflectors have no defined centers. So they have completely open centers. And they are they're kind of the samplers of a culture or humanity in general. So reflectors are really great at feeling all the ways that like a culture is existing and then reflecting that information back to them. So they give a broader overview of a group or a culture or a system.
Amazing. Danny, you're still like, you're like sitting back, you're like, there might be something to this.
No, it's I actually pulled up my spiritual gifting chart so I can compare. So it's interesting. So I'm excited to hear what's next because I'm over here. It's like, okay, projector. So this sounds like I'm a discerner. Okay, cool. What's next?
Well, let's talk a little bit about mine first because I really want to understand
because
this.
Jose wants to be the alpha. It's
Well, you know
fine.
what? You know
It's
what? You know what?
okay.
Let's do Danny.
It's
Let's
okay.
do Danny because I
It's
want to.
okay. Because
Let's understand you, bro. Let's see what's going on.
See, here's the thing. While he doesn't understand, is that like she said, the projectors are leading the way forward in the new millennium. So why not let the projector lead the way forward?
So you guys are the new Illuminati then.
That's basically what she's saying, Jose.
That's what I'm
Interesting.
saying.
Interesting.
And human design gives us a language to do that. So
Interesting.
Okay,
all right, so this is Danny's
I'm the new
chart.
elite, Jose. This is my card. What is this?
Yeah, this is your chart. So these are your energy centers. You can see there's 9 of them. So we have the crown at the top, the ajna or the third eye just below it, the throat, and then below that is the G center, which is your identity center. The triangle below that is the ego center or the heart. Then the triangle below that to the right is the solar plexus. And then to the left, the empty one is the sacral. And then the triangle on the left is the spleen. And then the square on the bottom is the root. Mm-hmm. So each of these energy centers has different properties to it. And when you're looking at this, graphic, you see what kind of looks like an energetic schematic. So you have these channels, we call them, that move from one energy center to another. And when the channel is activated or the gate is activated, it creates this channel that then lights up another energy center. So for example, on do I call you Danny? Danny?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Danny's fine.
Okay. I have Daniel on my paper here. So.
It's fine.
On Danny's, from his anja now down to his throat, you can see that he has this line from the 43 to the 23. And so that's called a channel. So he has access to that information or that energy all the time. And it's probably one that he uses quite a bit. This is the channel of explanation. So you're able to see and understand things from your third eye, and then you're able to speak them into being. And that's really a massive gift because so many of us have a lot of things stuck in our head and we can't ever get them out of our throats, out of our mouths.
So you're telling me becoming a comedian and podcaster is kind of like my life calling?
Yes. I was going to say both of your charts say you guys are right on track.
So my life calling was to be an entertainer. Thanks.
Yeah, and so that 43 is and the 23 are actually like really important gates for you. They exist in your incarnation cross. And so they're essentially like 2 of your prime gifts, the 43 and the 23. But you have your incarnation cross is called the left angle of dedication. And it's dedication to explaining things. It's dedication to sharing the information that you have going through you so that people can begin to understand new things about the world and themselves.
Interesting. Which is funny, right? Because there's a couple of things about my life that Jose knows that I'm sure you did not know, right?
Right. I know nothing about you.
Okay. So I've been a stand-up comedian for the last 5 years. I've done very well for myself. I've made enough money to say that I'm not successful. But I've also have had a lot of weird success in comedy. And I mean weird success as in like it moved fast, but also came to a screeching halt because of life. And I'm just going to leave it at that. But before that, I went to, I don't want to say Bible school because it wasn't really a Bible school, but I was a pastor in training. I was what they called an armor bearer. So I've preached the word. I've saved people, quote unquote, right? And then how you define to believe that. And I still believe in those basic tenets of Christianity. I am a practicing Christian. I don't deny that. I go to church every Sunday. I believe in the finished work of the cross. Like I said, regardless of whatever this is all interesting stuff. And to me, it kind of lines up with a lot of the spiritual giftings that I have. But like the biggest one that I know that I have, and it's one of the two things that even when doing spiritual gifting testing and personality testing that I've always exhibited was, one, the gift of exhortation. The gift of exhortation is being able to basically be a hype man for people. And that's really what it is. And the second one, and probably equally as important, is my discernment. So it's like, I'll sit there and ask Jose, if I say I don't like somebody, I'm almost 100% right 100% of the time. Like, we've been at bars and I'm like, we got to go. We've been in clubs. Hey, let's do this. Hey, it's okay to stay. Hey, this, that, or the other, which is funny to me because I don't know how my ex-wife got through all that shit. She fooled me, guys. She fooled me. It's okay. It's okay. It's a joke that nobody gets with me. It's fine. It's fine. It's okay.
People are laughing at home. People are laughing.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. So explain this to me. I got questions here now.
Yeah.
What is exactly gift 43? Because it says the number. What is 43 and what is this gift?
I have
do
to
I get 43 virgins? What is it? What do I get?
No. So what I was saying before, let me pull up my book. The I Ching. Are you familiar with the I Ching?
No, now you're getting into
we're getting into really esoteric stuff. The I Ching is the oldest spiritual text known to recorded history. And it's a recording of a hexagram. So there's 6 lines, and those 6 lines are repeated until there's 64. I don't know the exact technicalities of it, guys, but there's 64 energies that are all described with these 6 lines. It kind of looks like Korean a little bit, how they have very limited amount of imagery to create all these texts. Yes, the I Ching. So it's really, there's a lot of mythology around the I Ching, and it's really interesting, but the essential core of it is that there's 64 energetic frequencies that make up the world that we live in. And so your gift, your prime gift, is that 43. So you can look that up on the I Ching, or you can look it up in Gene Keys, or you can look up in Human Design. It's all going to be essentially the same thing. It's the gift of insight is what it is. So you have the gift of being able to see inside of things, the insight.
So, Jose, does that fit? Does that fit my personality, sir? It
kind of does. It kind of does, because you always have like a deeper understanding of certain topics that we talk about in this show that I've known you since you were born, and I had no idea that you would have like this amount of insight or knowledge in some of the topics that we talk about. So she's dead on, dude. Absolutely.
Well, the woo-woo is real, guys. The woo-woo is real.
So gift 43. There's a reason it's called the woo-woo.
I pull up the chart because I got like 2 more questions and then you can move past me. All right.
Well, I want to tell you about your profile type because
what's my profile type?
So you are a 5-1 profile, and again, we move back into that 6. So there's options between 1 and 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and it's 555 right now. I'm talking about the line 5. So when you are a line 5, you are a seer of truth. So I'm surprised you didn't see your ex-wife either, because you see everything. You see when people are false. You see when people are lying. You see when something is wrong. And the 5s, they are also called the what are they called? The martyrs. Is that right? Where they're the ones who are hung at the cross. They're the ones who they say the wrong thing, and all of a sudden they're like, I don't know that guy, the heretic. That's right. They're the heretic.
That's
And
crazy.
yeah. So the line fives are the heretics. They see the truth, and if they say it, sometimes they get crucified for it.
Not surprised. Hey, that's exactly what happened with my ex-wife. I'm like, hey, yo, homegirl, what happened? And then she was like, I think I need a divorce. And I was like, boom, bitch. Anyway, and then she's going to see this and she's going to be, I need to sue for defamation. Oh my God. Anyway, no, but that's interesting. So line 43 is I have insight. And then over here, on 55/1 challenge
5/1.
solver.
You're the challenge solver. Yep. So fives, what they do is they're universalizers, because they're taking all the information that's gathered from the ones, the twos, the threes, and the fours, and then they're universalizing that information into practical ways to solve humanity's problems. They're like, hey, I see it all. I've seen all the things coming up from the 1, 2, the 3, and the 4, and I have the solution for it. But then people are like, we don't want to hear from you because you make us feel unsafe, line 5. And so
sounds about right. Sounds
Yep.
about right.
So
It's
then
like, AOD, you're a little too abrasive. AOD, your language kind of sucks. AOD, calmate. And then when it happens, and then they look at me, yo, you were right, bro. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
sorry.
That's the play of the line fives. The line fives walk around with a massive projection field around them. People have their own ideas about who you are, and that has nothing to do with who you are. It's just their idea of who you are.
Yeah, well, as certain, apparently it's funny, right? Like and it's part of my dating life. They've always go like, I know, like I'm not this player or whatever, but like I come off as this player. They go, I bet you fuck women left and right, and I'm like, not really. Like I'm boring, guys. I go to the gym, I go to jujitsu, I do podcasts, I do comedy. Like I'm boring. Like,
well, I believe it because fives lead with a lot of integrity. So you're not interested in sharing your energy in a place where it isn't in integrity. So that doesn't really line up with casual sex. Line fives are
where's my future
people.
fiance so she can hear this shit? Where's my future fiance?
She's
hey
in
baby,
design somewhere. Go find her.
hey baby, listen to this, okay? You're ready, and I'm gonna play this clip for you, and I need this clip to be clipped and put
I got it.
everywhere.
I got it clipped, bro. I got it. It's
Okay.
41 minutes. No worries.
Hey,
I'll get it clipped.
Allyson just said, I am not into casual sex. I'm into kinky shit, but I am not into casual sex.
Okay. It's not the podcast for that. Let's go.
But five's a big power line. So I'm sure, and fives are very attractive to people because there's power involved there. So five's a great
Scorpio.
line.
It's the Scorpio in me. Oh my God.
One other thing. Oh, so with your 43, it's actually 43.5, and that's where the 5 from the 5/1 comes. So we're looking at like the most concentrated of your energy is that 43.5. So you have that insight to see, but if you speak out of turn, you may be crucified. So a lot of people with line 5, they end up not wanting to be seen. So I'm really proud of you for being so visible in the world.
So here's one more thing. The buzzing. What's that mean?
You know, it's really interesting. That's your digestion. And it's essentially saying that you can't really sit still, like when you're eating. And the digestion isn't just eating. It's anything that you're like consuming or processing through your body. You want to be moving. Sometimes you forget that you're eating because you're busy doing something else while you're eating. And you both have that digestion, which is crazy.
Well, that's just a family trait. You know, we can't sit still. I mean, there's a fidgeting thing around somewhere when working, just so I can do one thing with one thing and concentrate on the other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Jose.
Yeah, well, that's exactly your digestion. Both of you guys have it.
Interesting. All right, move past me. I'm done exposing myself.
You full? Okay.
I'm full. Jose.
Before we jump into me, what about this environment situation? Because he says mountains, but he was born in Puerto Rico, so why is he all mountainous?
I hate the mountains. I want to be close to the beach. What are you talking about here?
Mountain environment is just one who wants to look over things. So you feel the most yourself when you're like looking down upon people.
Yeah.
That's because I'm better than everybody else. Okay.
That's right.
Whether you didn't know it, whether you don't believe it or not, I am just built different. I'm better than you. And that's the
you know
bottom
it.
line because
Right.
Danny said so.
Okay,
Okay.
I have to tell you one more thing about yourself, Danny, before we move on. So as a projector, your energy is so strong and so powerful that it really does best when it's invited. So you may have noticed if people didn't ask you for advice, but you gave it anyway, they get really mad at you.
Of course, all the time.
So projectors do best when they're invited to share their information or their knowledge or their wisdom in some way. Projectors are highly successful. It's our signature to be successful. So if you're not experiencing success, there's something that's blocking you from that. And the success that you receive is through these kind of invitations that come out of nowhere. So you show up in your bright projector light and people see you and they're like, oh, I want that in my life. You know, come and do this for me. I'll pay you lots of money, that type of thing.
No, it's great. It's interesting you say that because the gigs I've gotten paid for the most in comedy are the ones that I never asked for.
Yeah.
Right. Which is funny because in like early in comedy, they always tell you don't get 100% of the gigs you don't ask for. And then I'm like, well, if I ask, they're not gonna get me because whatever. And all of a sudden I do, an open mic and they go, all right, dude, you're so funny. Come over. It's weird. And it's like now and it's we'll talk after the show. Move on to Jose.
So, but before we jump into my chart, I have a question here. So what are the benefits of understanding like your gate? Like what is a gate in human design and how do you understand what that is?
So the benefits of understanding any of the gates that you have defined, and those are the numbers on each side of your chart, you have access to that energy, or it can be a gift for you 100% of the time. So while there's 64 energies in all of the I Ching or in all of the system, you have access to those specific energies. And one of the benefits of knowing them is a lot of time we have wounds in these areas. And so when you look at the shadow aspects of these wounds, then you are able to see these parts of yourself that are kind of leading your life without your conscious awareness, so that you can bring them into consciousness and then move forward. And so that 43, it's the shadow of deafness. So, if Danny's not listening, that's a shadow that then can lead his life incorrectly. But if he's aware that, hey, I have the shadow of deafness and sometimes I just don't listen, I'm in a relationship, please tell me if I'm not listening to you, because that will help me see myself, then I can be better in this relationship.
Very interesting. All right, so let's jump into my chart here because I have a bunch of other questions here when it comes to my chart, but let's break it down.
Let's see how right you are about Jose now. Let's see.
Since you're the expert here. So what's going on here?
Okay, so your chart is so interesting that you only have these two defined centers, your sacral and your spleen. So you have this really consolidated energy. You only have like one voice really like talking to you or speaking to you. So you can move really quickly because you're not trying to collect all this information from your body coming together. It's just all right there in your sacral and your spleen. And the spleen speaks to you by read that really quick warning sign. The spleen holds all our ancestral fear. So you immediately will know if you're in danger. Like if you're in a dangerous situation, you can be like, it's dangerous here, we need to leave. That's the superpower of the spleen. And so you have that spleen connected to that sacral. And so you're really able to move quickly towards what brings you excitement. And that's really the gift of the generator, is moving towards what brings them excitement. A generator is like a sports car. And when they have their foot on the gas, they just go, go, go. The problem with generators is they don't know how to use their energy properly. And so they have their feet on the gas and the brake. And so projectors are actually here to serve, to be recognized by generators and allow us to help them to know how to use their energy to the most effective level, so that they can just keep go like the F-150, just like, is that the race? I think that's the truck. They just have that race here in Las
That's
Vegas.
a truck.
Okay.
Build Texas tough.
We-
Ford F-150.
We get it though. We get it.
Yeah. They have the race here in Las Vegas. So generators are really built to go, and because you only have this one consolidated, energy cluster here, or energy circuit, you can really move really quickly.
Interesting.
Does that
Okay.
answer your question?
It does. It does. It does.
Which is funny because Jose's always like, he finds out a good idea, he doesn't really think about it, he just goes, yeah, let's do it, right? And in comparison, I've always been like, slow down. I've always been like, there's something iffy about this, and then he goes, no, it's fine, and I'm like, yo, hey, calmate, bro, like there's something off about this individual or this situation. Like, no, it'll be fine, and it works out for him. But like, also, like, if it goes bad, it always been like one of those things. Like, example, Jose and I used to play a bunch of basketball when we were kids, right? And then there would be times where it'd be like, we shouldn't be here, Jose. He was like, no, it's fine. It's always like, I saw the people differently than he did, and it's always been this interesting, like, this is why I trust Jose to take us to the next thing. But I think he's always kind of came back to me as in like, okay, but like, is this what we're supposed to be? Kind of situation.
Yeah, well, and that's so Jose is a 2-4 in his profile. So where you're a 5-1, Jose is a 2-4, and so right away we see the 2 is underneath the ground, and so 1, 2, 3 is underneath the ground, and 4, 5, 6 is above the ground. So that 4 is below your 5, so it doesn't have the ability for seeing as far as the 5. But the 4 is called the opportunist. They always see when opportunity is available. Now, that doesn't mean the quality of the opportunity or if the opportunity is safe or not. That would be a gift for the 5. But the 4s are really networkers. And they're that opportunist that really moves society forward by seeing, oh, there's opportunity here, I'm going to go get it. There's opportunity here, I'm going to go get it.
Yeah,
that sounds just like me. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's why Jose does all the networking, and we do all the content creating over here. It's fine.
That's why I'm building 3 businesses at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, you have that generator energy, whereas the projector, they have to have things built up for them. They show up as the talent, whereas the generators are the builders. So,
bro, you pay me the big bucks because I'm worth it, not because I'm building it. What's up, dog?
That's right.
It's like I'm like The Rock. I don't need to build it. I just show up, and you pay me the millions, dog. I'm like Floyd Mayweather. It's like, you don't pay me. You don't pay me.
He just blew up his head so big. I'm gonna have to kick. You know what? I'm kicking you off the podcast, bro. I'm kicking you off the podcast. He's not allowed to talk about himself like that anymore. I'm just joking. We're bringing it back.
Now he's on the bottom. He's the bottom bitch now.
It's fine. It's okay. It's okay. I've always been a power bottom anyway. It's fine. I've always been a power bottom. It's fine.
All right. So I see that my gift is 35. What does that mean for me?
Let me look that one up. It's the gift of adventure. And right, the essence is boundlessness. But the shadow here is hunger, which means that sometimes you can never get enough, and you move from one thing to the next thing to the next thing without maybe digesting it, especially with that buzzing digestion. Mm-hmm. And so that can create a lot of conflict in your life, or a lot of crisis in your life, because you're not sticking to a thing long enough to receive what you're supposed to receive from it. So this is really a gift of holding the energy and savoring the energy and releasing that shadow of hunger that may drive us to endless consumption, and allowing yourself to be like, I'm not here to endlessly consume. I'm here to consume what's of quality.
I hate to stop you right there, but is that your dog snoring?
It's my dog snore. Like, he's a Frenchie, so he's brachycephalic.
Bro, I'm over here like I'm over here like,
I'm like, is there something like vibrating going on? I'm like, oh no, it's not.
And I'm like, she's mentioned the dog was there, and she said it was a Frenchie, and I was like, "Is that your dog?"
My wife called him over, but he's obsessed with me, so there's no guarantee.
Oh my
Is it a boy dog, girl dog?
It's a boy. Yeah.
That's a good boy.
It's okay. He'll be like,
There's
Careful.
something weird coming through in the audio.
no.
Now, one thing I noticed here, which was very intriguing to me, my environment is kitchens. I feel like I am in my element every time I'm in the kitchen. I do a lot of the cooking at my house. I feel like I can manage my stress when I'm in the kitchen, either if I'm cleaning or cooking. So I think there's something to that because I feel like, yes, like all my stress is relieved when I'm in the kitchen.
Yeah, kitchens is my environment too. And I'm actually in my kitchen right now. And for years, I worked in my boss's kitchen. And then I found this out and I was like, that's so incredible because I really do, lean towards the energy of a kitchen. It's almost like it's, the hearth of the home. There's activity kind of happening around you. You can create things there. You have all of your resources and supplies there. So it's kind of that energy of like a lot of like living momentum around you.
So a follow-up question, and then also retracking. Jose he is a great cook, and he does do a lot of great things in the kitchen. I will say that. Also, forever he recorded a podcast in his kitchen. Mm-hmm. So it was funny. Like his very first podcast was in a kitchen. But like back to the environment of mine, and this is just a clarification. No. Please don't take this the wrong way. I'm not. This is honestly a clarification question. Is the fact that I have this yearning to be on stage, is that like kind of a mountain?
Absolutely, 100%. A stage is a great clarification on a mountain. Because you are right, you're above and you're doing something that's, you're part of something, but you're above it. That's absolutely mountain energy. Yep.
Oh, okay. So Jose is the cook. He wants to be the boss. He's the guy, and I'm over here like, dude, just let me be the mouthpiece, homie.
Yep. See, so many ways you're already living your design.
Interesting.
See, once you learn a little bit more about yourself, you can tune in with your body and make decisions accordingly and follow your environment, right? So this is an amazing piece of information. And guys, I'm gonna have all the links in the description, so you guys make sure you follow Jen and make sure you get all her work and make sure you get all one-on-one coaching with her. So I'll have all the links in the description. But let's move over the conversation and talk a little bit more about you, Jen, because we know that you were raised in a cult. You mentioned that earlier. How did that all come about, and what was it like growing up in a cult? And if you could share a little bit of your experience with us.
Yeah, it was kind of great growing up in a cult. I know, Deanna, you asked, like, there's got to be an upside, right? The way I was raised, we were very family oriented and very church oriented. And I think that's how a lot of like the Southern, like evangelical world is too, where it's very tight knit. Everybody in your community. If you need anything, there's 100 people there who are ready to step in, type of thing. And the biggest damage that's being done here is that I was gay, but I didn't know I was gay, and there's absolutely no room for that. And so I was suppressing this massive part of myself for my entire life. And so I had to go on a massive healing journey, but even to break out of that belief system was incredibly difficult, because when we lose an identity such as that, it's like dying. And so we don't want to take that leap. We don't want to walk through that door, and we're willing to harm ourselves for as long as we're willing to harm ourselves for, perhaps our whole life, if we don't have to take that leap out. And so growing up, there was an emphasis for, women to be very like patriarchal, like wives. You didn't go to school necessarily. And even if you did, you were just going to school to meet a husband. And it's just very like the very like 1950s patriarchal world that we were living in, right?
Screw the patriarchy.
Right. And I didn't know any different. I thought it was great.
What kind of cult was this, though?
So I grew up Mormon, very
Oh.
Mormon, very
we're
Orthodox
calling
Mormon.
Mormons cult. Okay, all
Oh,
right.
absolutely.
No, but
It's
it is, Jose.
100%.
No. But it is. But it is. I
Okay.
love her. I
I'm
love
not
her.
gonna argue with you. So,
But it
okay,
is,
that's fine.
bro. Okay, look, I don't know much about this, but all I have to say, if it's some dude named John, whatever, says he saw Jesus in the mountains of
In a
like
hat,
Utah,
right, or something
So
like
that he
that.
could have
and a
sex
hat,
with lots of women.
and then also said it's like, yo, the Bible says you can have as many wives as you want. I'm like, huh? Like, bro, it's weird. It's weird. Okay, like I'm just saying, it's weird. It's like them and the Jehovah Witnesses. They're both freaking weird. Okay, yes, they're cults.
And
Now-
Danny knows because he's a line 5.
He knows.
Oh, yeah.
He's got insight. He's got insight. I love it.
Weird.
Now, clarify this for me, because I had heard in another podcast, one of our friends, shout out to Paranoid American, he interviewed someone kind of in a similar situation who was raised in the Mormon church and all that stuff. And he mentioned something that's part of the church, but they acknowledge it, but not really. And it has something to do with like being white. Is that like a real thing? Like I guess the higher you are, like you have to be white. If not, you can't be part of this congregation. Is that like an actual thing?
Yeah, it's definitely a religion of white supremacy for sure, 100%. That doesn't mean that you have to be white to be baptized. They're more than happy to take your 10% of your income, whatever color you are, but you cannot rise up in any ranks. And the where that's veers from that is if you're very wealthy. Your wealth, whitewashes you enough that you could possibly be at a higher level. Which I think is true for anything in capitalism, right? But yeah, I have some personal stories, but I don't think I can share those. They're more my ex-husband's personal stories. He's from Jamaican family, so there's definitely, and I'm half Hispanic, so there's a lot of racism that I encountered that I didn't have words for until after my awakening.
Which is interesting because there's a huge like Polynesian community here in Texas that's Mormon.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
Huge.
they had a massive missionary, they've baptized entire islands and entire cultures of people over in the Polynesian islands into Mormonism. And, we talk about religion really overstepping its bounds and messing with the naturalness of people. Yeah.
Wouldn't be the first time. Let's just say that. Not the first time in history. Okay. But it's weird, right? Because like Mormonism and like Jehovah Witness is a very American bred type of belief system, right? Just like Scientology, and that's also a different type of weird we can get into. But like when you look into the history, especially of these two, right? Jehovah Witness comes from like the New York post-Christian, kind of Puritan era, and this thing comes from its own thing, and they both believe in like having multiple wives. Kind of everything revolves around this whole like we want to have sex with other people that isn't our spouse, and as a Christian, and this is no judgment to anyone of any kind, but as a Christian, knowing what doctrine is in the basic Christianity, let it be Catholicism, baptism, charismatic, apostolic, it doesn't matter what the basics are. And then you see what these two groups are doing. You're like, okay, you're taking a universal thought, which is Jesus died for our sins, for example, right? And they're saying, well, he didn't really. And then you add on top all the other weird things that they add to their belief system. And you can explain more about the Mormonism here in a minute, but it's like it's you can't even call it a sect of Christianity. It's its own thing.
Yeah, I'd love to speak on that because it's very controversial. But yeah, the thing about Mormonism is you have to believe in an idol in order to be saved, and that idol is Joseph Smith. Mm-hmm. So you have to be baptized into Joseph Smith's version of religion in order to go to heaven. So you're actually bypassing Jesus Christ, even though you use him like nominally and as a gatekeeper for your salvation, but you have to believe in Joseph Smith that he saw God in order to be saved. So it's not Christianity.
Which is weird because what they call the church the Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I mean, I guess that's the most famous church, but there's more other Mormon churches. So, I mean, they have to use Jesus as a reference, but they're obviously not. They're definitely, I mean, from what you're telling me, it sounds like straight up idolatry.
Yeah,
No,
it's exactly what it is.
It is. It's insane. And like, explain this to me now. This is something I've heard and I've read some online, and I don't know what the truth from fiction is on this. Right? What is with the whole owning your planet thing?
So, so when Joseph Smith was mad with power, building this church and sleeping with everyone's wives, it's like that narcissist, you know, where they have to keep adding things to keep people like tangled up in this creation. And so it's like, oh, we have to go to the temple and we have to get this thing from God so that you can, you know, marry another wife so that you can have a world that you've created, and we're creators of worlds. And, you know, it's kind of that megalomaniac's dream. And so it's just like that, you know, that became then the doctrine, which they kind of disavow now because they're trying to make themselves seem more mainstream Christian. Because they're just bleeding members. They need a new influx of people who are not aware of their history. But the doctrine then became that, you know, it's too weird to describe in few words, but as essentially, if you're good enough, if you believe in Joseph Smith enough, and follow all the tenets of his very specific, you know, ordinances and covenants, then you get to go to the highest level of heaven. And as the highest level of heaven, and this is all for men, so you get to go to the highest level of heaven as a man,
This patriarchy
and
is crazy.
be a creator of worlds, and then you have all your wives and you're having sex with them constantly to populate all these worlds.
First of all, there is no man born of his mother's womb that can have that much sex and live a proper life.
Dude,
Okay.
it almost sounds like, I mean, I don't know who came in. I mean, Joseph Smith, was it like a 1600s, 1700s guy?
Wasn't he like 13 years old when he came up with all this?
He was born in 1805. He had his first vision at 14, though it wasn't recorded until he was like 26.
So I'm wondering, I mean, this is why I'm going to make a wild connection, but I don't know if this is true, but I'm just trying to connect two dots, and I think I'm going to be stretching a lot. But I'm almost wondering if Aleister Crowley looked at Joseph Smith's work and he's like, oh shit, this guy's going to do something, but we're just going to change the words on everything. So it almost sounds like Aleister Crowley was doing Mormonism, but just changed the name on it.
Yeah, there's so much fervor happening. Talk about like collective moving forward. There's so much like religious fervor happening in this region around this time that so much of it was just, you know, and it's all very American, taking what you can get.
Exactly. And the reason I'm saying that is because like with Aleister Crowley and Thelema, from what I've read and researched, you know, he had this vision, right, that he apparently spoke to a god. He didn't say God itself, but he spoke to a god, and that's where he was able to get pretty much exactly what like Joseph Smith did, where he was able to create the church and write out the Bible and his version of the Bible and get the message out, which is exactly what Aleister Crowley did. Then he started the church, and everything was all, you know, polygamy and sex magic and all sorts of crazy ass shit, you know, but they were being true to it. They were being like, no, this is some dark ass shit. Like, this isn't, you know, we're not dressing Christ and, you know, making it look like it's all Christian. And then we're having all this sex orgies in the back. I mean, I don't know if that's true, right? But, you know, from what I'm gathering, that's what I'm listening. That's what I'm understanding.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and it's hard to know the extent to which early Mormonism was like that because so much of the records are destroyed or
kept in that building out in
right,
Salt Lake,
kept in the
Salt Lake
vault.
City.
Kept in the vault in Utah with everyone's DNA. Do not do DNA
Oh
testing,
my
guys.
God.
Are you kidding
Oh
me?
yeah, the Mormons
What?
own all the DNA companies, so they can find
so-
where the most
Hold on. Are you
gullible
telling me
people are, so they can go convert them.
you're telling me
I
that the
thank
Mormons?
Jesus. I thank Jesus and the Lord
This
above
is
that I've
more
never
insidious.
taken one of those things.
Yes, because
I
you're
never
5'1".
refuse.
You're telling me right now that the Mormons own all the DNA companies?
I know,
All of
maybe
them?
not all of them, but I think the biggest one, whichever.
So like 23andMe.
Yeah,
So then on
something like
top of
that.
that, it almost makes me wonder, then do they own like cloning companies? Right?
Maybe.
I'm gonna look this up right now.
Right, all of it's so
That's
insidious
wild.
because you think when you get to these higher echelons of massive amounts of money and power, Mormonism is the most wealthy religion in the world. So you cannot even begin to
More
imagine
wealthy?
what they're doing.
Wealthier than the Roman Catholic Church?
The Catholic Church
Oh
just doesn't have the
shit!
cash.
Hold on, I'm gonna share this right now. Hold on,
The
Jose.
Catholic
I
Church
found something
owns
crazy.
so much of the world, but they're not like a
Read that, Jose.
cash centric.
All right, who we got?
What does it say?
What do we got here? Hold on, let me bring it up full screen here. Let's see. 2001 Mormon billionaire James Sorensen started one of the earliest genetic test kit companies, Relative Genetics, in part due to his religious interests. It was later brought by Ancestry.com, another Mormon company. While today Ancestry is a publicly traded company, it uses LDS church records and the IGI. Holy shit.
So
That's
what are
wild.
his religious interests in knowing the genetic components of a massive amount of humanity?
It's like
That's wild.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's creepy. That is like real world creepy. Jose, you know how we
Yeah.
always talk about the elites and the music elites and all this?
I mean, this
This
is one
is
branch of them.
way scarier. This is
Yeah.
way scarier.
But this is like one branch of them, right?
No,
Because
this is like American Horror Story.
I was watching. So, have you guys seen that show Evil on Paramount Plus?
No, I refuse.
So it's actually a really good show. So it's about so the Vatican hires this team of people to investigate demonic possessions and weird phenomena, miracles, and things like that, right? So they've been having this arc over the last 4 seasons about this fertility clinic that's owned by the Vatican, right? And at this fertility clinic, they're modifying the embryos so they can be like the spawn of Satan to populate the earth, right? So makes me wonder, what the hell is the Mormon church doing to this genetic data that they have stored at ancestry.com? Because if they're planning to make some type of superhuman, I mean, why do they need all that information?
What my hypothesis is that they're collecting, they're running these algorithms that show them where people are most likely to convert to Mormonism. You have these genetic markers that are making more susceptible to belonging to a cult. And so then they go and they send their 60,000 strong missionary force to those areas to convert those people. It's very insidious.
Between me and Jose, we'll start our own cult, but that's besides the point,
Yeah, and then we'll do genetic testing to see if they have the code in their DNA to see if they're going to be converted to this new code. That just sounds like a total load of bullshit to me. Like, how are you going to decide? Oh, look, this is the genetic coding that he's going to be more proactively to convert to Mormonism. Like,
it's all there in your genes.
Oh my god!
Or not. My whole thing is, let's be honest. If these people love the idea of polygamy and this whole having multiple wives, multiple partners, what the secular people call an open marriage, right? Wouldn't you use genetic testing to find out who has the biggest members in the world and try to get those people to join your cult so you can breed children with big old penises, so you can be like, hey, you with a big penis, have 6 wives?
I don't think you want that kind of competition.
You don't need that kind of competition. You just make him part of your team, And And he just convinced the women. He goes like, "Hey guys, look, I know you have to share one, but the dude is like 10 inches long."
It's not about pleasure for the woman. I assure you that.
Yeah, but you got to sell it somehow. I'm just saying. Look, I'm a comedian. I don't know what I'm talking about. Leave me alone, okay?
All right, so I do want to wrap up here with a quick lightning round of questions. So what we like to do at the end of each podcast, we like to ask just quick lightning round questions, and it's kind of like a scale from 1 to 10, kind of like on where you sit on certain topics, right? So we're just gonna throw out like a crazy one, and then you'll be like 1 through 10, and if you want to elaborate, you can. If you don't have to. All right.
Okay.
So here we go with the first one. We're gonna ask you about Bigfoot. Where you sit on Bigfoot?
10. What's the one and what's the 10?
So 10 is you believe it the most. 1 is you believe it the
Yeah,
least.
10. Sure, why not?
Okay.
10. She's a straight up 10. That's the first our first all the way 10 on
That is
Bigfoot.
a true 10. I don't know if she's just hopeful or delusional.
I just have an
love
open
it.
mind.
Okay.
All right, Danny, you go.
Chupacabra.
I don't know very much about it, but I'll go with the 10.
Oh, she's a hopeful one, Jose. She might break the scales here. She might break the
I
scales.
love it. All right. Interdimensional portals.
Oh, absolutely. 100.
100. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that. I think there are interdimensional portals. I do. I really, really do. I think it's been talked about not only across many religions in the world. I think we're starting to see it more and more now because of the times that we live in.
Yeah.
And
the shamans always move through portals.
Well, not just the shamans, right? Like, think about this. There's one of my favorite stories in the Bible, right? It's where Jesus goes up into the mountain to pray, and Peter and Matthew record that at that time he was speaking to Isaiah and Moses at the same time up in the temple, up in the mountaintop. And I have a belief that the Bible in that moment is recording a time of a break in the space-time continuum, that in that moment Moses was talking to Jesus in the burning bush, okay, and Isaiah was having that moment with the angel Jesus, and in that moment was an actual moment that happened at the same time in 3 different times in history, which this is why I believe interdimensional portals exist.
I believe everything's happening all in the same moment all the time.
Yeah, and that's like a really good example of quantum entanglement, right? Like 2 different timelines existing and coexisting at the same exact time, which is I have 100% belief in that myself. All right, where do you sit from a scale of 1 to 10 of reptilian people ruling the world?
I mean, I think that we have a lot of reptilian DNA. And that's, a lower vibrational being. I don't think they run the world, and I definitely don't think they run the world anymore.
I get it. Yeah, I don't believe in lizard people either, but I do believe in a small group of people that do control the world, though.
I mean,
the projectors.
The projectors. Coming from a cult, definitely there are people behind the scenes who are running things. I just don't think they have nearly as much power as they used to.
Do you think the music industry is currently ran by a cult?
I mean, I think it probably always has been run by a cult. But I think because we're moving into a place where you can be an independent artist, like via TikTok and so forth, that those things are shifting just like any other system.
All right, and where do you sit on from 1 to 10 on aliens?
Love them. 10.
He's like, I love them.
I love Jen because she just said 10 everything. I believe everything. Yes, my kind of girl. Well, Jen, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the show today. You have been such a delight. It's been an amazing conversation. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot more about Danny. But looking at both of our charts, how would you recommend for me and Danny to work on, and how can I communicate better with Danny?
Well, Jose, the best way for you to communicate with Danny is to recognize him for his talents and ask for his insights. he's like a massive talent and tool that just needs to be used properly. So you have this gift at your fingertips. So you utilize it by recognizing what those talents are and then asking for his insights, because he really can see, has that insight to know where maybe you're blocked, where maybe you're like stopping yourself, or you're hitting the brake. And as a generator, your signature for your not self is frustration. So when you notice that you're frustrated, you take a breath. You're like, I'm feeling frustrated. I need to know why. And then, ask Danny or Brenda, because she's also a projector. But that frustration is the marker, is the trigger that tells you need to ask a projector for help.
Interesting. The two most important people in your life are projectors, Jose. What's that tell you?
Hey, a generator needs a projector, right? I guess that's how it goes, right?
Absolutely.
Interesting. I love this. This has been a very insightful podcast, a very fun one. A very fun one. I'm not gonna lie. But okay, so how do I communicate better with Jose other than waiting for him to invite me?
Well, that is the key, is, you might be apt to speak first, but a lot of times you have to just keep your mouth shut and wait for that invitation. And maybe, you guys are brothers, you have a long history together. You can say something like, I got some pearls in my pocket, some gems in my pocket, just waiting, type of thing. But that you being able to hold back until the invitation actually comes, because if Jose isn't frustrated, you're going to frustrate him by trying to tell him what to do.
Very
Funny
true.
enough, he's the big brother. I've never been able to tell him what to do, even if I wanted to. It's always been more like, yo, D, this is what we're doing. And I'd be like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah. Okay. Just drop me through the table. Mom's not gonna get us in trouble at all.
Oh man. Those are old school wrestling in the house days.
Oh, yeah.
So guys, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Jen, thank you for being on the show. Make sure you guys follow Jen Allyson on Instagram at Jen.Allyson, on Facebook, Jen Allyson. We'll have all the links in the description, so you can make sure you subscribe, follow her on Patreon. Make sure you follow us as well, YouTube and on Rumble at Cultura Truth Project, at Gonzalez Media TV, Facebook, Instagram. And subscribe to the podcast on all major platforms, on Google, on Apple, on iHeart. Leave us a 5-star review and support the show on Spreaker. Become a supporters only part of the club. $3 a month. Link in the description. We love you guys. We thank you so much for being on the show, Jen. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.